And I hope the letters are facing the right
Mm-hmm.
way.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it says, I'm not a girl, but what's important is to look at the illustration and the text. All right. This is a book which is meant for first and second graders.
Unbelievable.
So you can see that it's a picture book to be read. And at the end, of course, at the end, what happens is she gets a haircut and she says she's a boy. So this is integrated into all of the lessons. Here's an even this one's meant for kindergarten actually. This is called let's see here, they, she, he, me, and it's it's it really is a very simple. It's quite beautiful too. The artwork is actually gorgeous. Um, I mean, I like children's books, so but here's some of the artwork that's inside. And on the back, it says pronouns serve as a familiar starting point for kids and grown-ups to expand ideas about gender and celebrate personal expression. Um, but when you're teaching language to children, especially to immigrants, and Glendale, as you know, has many, many immigrants, uh, language is a tool to be used for thought, to make conceptual distinctions, to understand the world, and later on to engage in self-reflection and have personal relationships and find happiness and productivity in the world. This is sets out to destroy the human mind, to confuse the human mind, and as I'm sure you both know, in other languages, sometimes they do not have dual pronouns or they lack articles. I mean, in Korean, there's no articles, there's no a, there's no the.
Mm-hmm.
And in helping people learn to speak English correctly so that they can be successful in the economic world. I mean, it's just awful. It's just awful. It's a world of make believe. It's a world. It's teaching children a very damaging form of narcissism.
And can I jump in
That
here?
what is
Right, can I just
Yeah, please
Sure,
do.
David,
for
go
a
ahead.
sec? Because, the book where you just talked about the indoctrination and the fact that you have, so many immigrant children in that district. Well, I was one of them. Back in the day, I was one of those immigrant children. I was born in Soviet Ukraine. I started school in the Soviet Union. And when I was starting school, this is exactly the type of indoctrination that they introduced us to. All our children's books, all those things, it was all about, glorifying communism, glorifying great grandfather Lenin, all those things, the hero of the revolution. And it was exactly those types of um, attractive, drawings and really um,
Are you?
really insightful and interesting things for kids that basically put that worm in our brains from the very beginning, to be a member of the party, right? Like we had books about joining, the Young Communist Party, right? The Komsomol and all that, and we had little pins that we used to wear. So this is using that same exact playbook um, to do this to our kids, to sexualize them, and to really just extinguish everything we built on in terms of Western civilization. So all these parallels. That's why I think you have all these Armenian parents standing up and fighting against it because this is exactly what they saw when they were growing up.
So you mentioned the Armenian parents. So Glendale has a huge Armenian population, and I'm going to throw to some video. We can talk over it. We'll just play it as B-roll of some of the protests that happened in the last couple of weeks where the parents basically were just out there saying don't sexualize our kids, and then the radical activists were out there demanding sort of all of the things we've been laying out here. It actually got violent at one point, a couple arrests, et cetera, et cetera. What I found interesting about it, beyond the obvious stuff, was that the way the media framed it was that these were pro LGBT protesters versus anti LGBT protesters, except these parents are just parents who just don't want state educators or state employees talking to their kids about sex and gender identity and the rest of it. So actually, David, let me go back to you quick on this. What can the parents do legally at this point? If California is as crazy as we all seem to think, and as you guys probably know, I fled California a year and a half ago, partly because I knew this stuff was coming. What can a parent who has a kid at a public school that is going through all of this, that does not have a teacher like Ray who's doing the right thing, but is in a class, third grade class, fourth grade class, that's being indoctrinated, does that parent have any legal recourse?
Absolutely. There's a long history precedent from our Supreme Court that parents have the right to dictate the values that their children are inculcated with. So, I think we can use that as a weapon long term, but on a day to day basis, sort of the simple stuff is talk to your children. Make sure you have a very strong relationship. Um, get copious notes of what's going on in their school, in their classroom. Do FOIA requests, right? Public records requests, and don't give up because these school districts are very sneaky and they're very evasive in terms of producing relevant documents. Keep at it if you need to, and this is important. Once you've collected enough information, talk to a lawyer because there are vulnerabilities, right? These laws in California. They're sort of like the Death Star, but there is a vulnerability. There is that.
There's always a way to blow up a Death Star.
Exactly. So we have ways. I think I'm not ready to disclose them yet because the other side is obviously listening.
Sure.
But they exist and we're working on it. So collect collect as much evidence as you can and find a lawyer. If not me, there are a handful of lawyers in California who are very good at this and who are dedicated to this fight. So that's that's what I would say is get the evidence, make sure you get on the school, tell them you're not okay with it, and then talk to a lawyer.
Ray, what kind of support are you getting? I'm guessing mostly, unfortunately, on the DL from other teachers and staff members, administrative staff, that sort of thing, and also from parents. Because we know one of the main issues here is that everyone's afraid of getting canceled these days. So they're probably afraid of now being seen out at the local restaurant with you.
Well, in terms of Glendale, as you know, it is fairly conservative as a community, and I can say that at my school site, or my former school site, at least two-thirds of the staff completely reject this uh, transgender ideology. Uh, the people that I work with, they were completely against it. They understood clearly what was going on, and they just avoided it as much as possible. Unfortunately, not a single one of them has said anything, and I understand. I don't blame them because they have children, they have spouses. Now, the same thing with the parents. Many of the parents at my school, are my views about a lot of issues. Um, I've never been quote unquote politically correct, and my parents know that, and parents often request me specifically for that. I mean, over the years. So the parents have been fantastic. The parents, I mean, I've always had a very good, loving relationship with all my parents because my goal as a teacher is to help their student learn, to develop their mind, and to be a good teacher, you have to be able to reach a student's mind where they are, where their consciousness is, and help them build a bridge. And my focus has always been the students. And so I have a fantastic rep. So the parents are behind me. But unfortunately, again, they usually have businesses and they're terrified of, of being mobbed, of being doxxed, which I was, um, and, and losing their business. So everybody basically tries to stay under the radar. Um,
I'm gonna let David finish with another promotion of the crowdfunding to help you guys out. But Ray, just one or two more for you. First off,
mm-hmm.
Do you want to be retired now? I mean, we do have a lot of great teaching a lot of great places of teaching, also known as schools here in Florida, where you would be welcomed, obviously.
Well, I would have continued working here for a few more years, except I knew I just couldn't stomach it. So no, my career as a teacher is not over. It's just a matter of where the next step is in terms of finding a position to be productive in the world.
Okay, I have one more question for you then, which is, was it when I was going through my notes this morning, one of my guys pointed out, you happen to be gay. I would say happen to be because I happen to be gay. It is what it is. It's not that interesting, actually. But people find it interesting when having this specific conversation. Um, I didn't know that about you till 10 minutes before we started, but does that play a role in this somehow? Or change the optics of it somehow, or give you insight somehow into what your feelings are around all of this?
Well, my first gay march was in 1980. So 40 years ago, and I've always been openly gay. My parents know that. My colleagues know that. And I think it does. I think it frightens the school district in particular because I know exactly what they're doing. Just like the left used gay Americans as a tool, they to try to divide Americans. They are now doing this with the transgender issue. The other thing is that the parents are not anti-gay at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how the left wants to keep painting them instead of taking them seriously. At this riot that I was there, I was down there watching everything. The other side was Antifa and a few Proud Boys. They had helmets, they had their faces covered. One of the Antifa characters pulled out a knife and tried to stab one of the Armenian fathers, and the he was arrested. It turns out, guess what? He's a child molester. Okay, he's been arrested for sexual activity with a 14-year-old girl. So the real division was Antifa, Proud Boys, and the alphabet soup people, the crazy people, right? The LGBTX. There is no such people. There is no such community. I'm a gay man. I'm not a lesbian. I'm not transgender, right? And it's made up. It's just made up in order to make a box to try to gain political votes. And the issue of homosexuality has nothing to do with transgenderism at all. And it's just a way of them trying to ride on our backs. So as a gay man, and I think this is part of the reason why I was removed from my classroom so quickly, because it's one thing, to have a straight guy, they can easily just call him a bigot, but they can't do that with me. So I think it's more important that more and more gay Americans speak up, in particular, and go to the front of the line with this, and saying no, sexualizing children is wrong. So I do think it is important, and I do think it. I actually haven't talked to my lawyer about this, but I do think that my district in removing me violated the anti-discrimination laws of California. I think I was targeted because I was gay.
Mm-hmm. No, this thing about not fitting into the intersectional calculator in the way that they want probably does lend to something related to that, for sure. David, if you have any other final thoughts, and then I want you to promote the crowdfunding so that we can raise some funds for you guys, because obviously this is a worthwhile cause, and of course we'll put the link down below.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, so we're on Give, Send, Go because GoFundMe is run by commies. So again, Give, Send, Go. Just go on the website. You just search for Ray Shelton, search under Ray's name, and you'll find our First Amendment Legal Defense Fund. So please, anything you can do to contribute, both Ray and I really appreciate it.
Yes, we really do. It's really, really important because this isn't about me. It's about me. It's about trying to help change our culture at least a little bit into the right direction, and it's about protecting children. That's really what it's about.
And Ray, if this was a Hollywood show, this is where I would say, now stay. We're going to do another show that's going to be much more controversial, and we'd get you into a lot of trouble, but this is the internet. We do things a little bit differently. I thank you guys for your time, and if I can help out in any other way, please don't hesitate to ask.
Thank you so much for having us. God bless you, and Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dave.